It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show. Today's date is August 6th. We'll talk about that in C Block, as well as the thing we missed yesterday, which John and I both had brain fog over. And what we do in B Block. John, what do we do in B Block? What is it?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
He does it so well. Okay, John, don't ask me why. Well, I can tell you why. I subscribe to an interesting news organization out of Los Angeles, and you have the proper term for this. These are journalists who are essentially just grabbing all this data and turning out stories about it. What do you call that again?
Data farming.
Data farming. Okay. There's several different publications in the LA area that they do. They have like a Hollywood version and stuff like that. And what they're essentially doing is they're taking publicly available information generated by the city of Los Angeles County, the various munis and things like that. And they're writing stories about it. And I get these almost on a daily basis, and some of them fascinating. The one I found fascinating was, I thought to myself, and I thought only things like this happen in St. Louis, the Los Angeles Parking Authority, that if you park in a wrong space, or you stay too long at a meter, or if you do anything like that, they write you a ticket. And the interesting part of this was they're crunching the financial information. And last year, after the smoke cleared, after they gave all the tickets, and they generated like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of tickets, the Los Angeles Parking Authority lost $65 million.
So, how is that possible?
I said the same thing. I looked at this and I'm going like, how is that possible? So in other words, in business parlance, the operating expenses exceeded net income. How about or just revenue? The operating expenses exceeded revenue. John, in a business, how long would a business be able to sustain that?
It depends on how much they could get if they went to the Bank of Washington and they had a tobacco.
John, John,
I guess I never would have thought that in LA would make more money than the golf carts.
Well, John, you got funky there. You sound like you're underwater. We had this problem every once in a while. Let me talk again. Let me hear you try to talk again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's surprising to me that parking attendants earn as much as LA lifeguards do.
Well, see, the interesting thing was that's part of the issue, because the article talks about the fact, let me bring it up again. I had it here. The article talks about the fact that, and let me just read this. The city once made a tidy sum off of parking fines, more than $20 million as recently as 2016. That's essentially profit. Since then, the system has gone pear-shaped. Los Angeles now spends more on all the costs involved in funding parking enforcement, including pensions, than it takes in from the fines. Last fiscal year, ended June 30th, the budget gap was $65 million. So in other words, after they gave all these tickets away and people paid them, they still lost $65 million. So if all of a sudden the city of Los Angeles said, okay, we're not going to give away parking tickets anymore, we're just going to fire all these people and we're going to sell all the vehicles, they would essentially have a bottom line increase of $65 million. John, is that correct?
It sounds like that's what they should do, Brad. Now, my favorite part of that story is that they said that the budget was pear-shaped.
Yes.
Usually in LA, if you're pear-shaped, that gets you kicked out of town, right?
I guess. Okay, now.
I mean, maybe unless you're peach-shaped. The other thing is, Brad, I misspoke earlier because you asked me what these type of stories are. Data farming is where these AI companies just make up a whole bunch of stories with data, and they scrape some data and then they pitch it, and the Brad Hildebrands of the world play it and say, can you believe that Sumner High School is the 8th most baddest kids in the area, in the state of Missouri? What I should have said, Brad, was that it's kind of content farming. So they'll go through and they'll scrape meaningless, boring press releases. It would be like if Westplex News just reprinted stuff from St. Charles County government that nobody cares about.
Well, isn't it also what they call data journalism as well, too? Isn't that a term?
Yeah, I think that's more of the wallet hub type stuff that says, did you know that the average insurance rate went up 0.23% in Missouri? And then boomers click on it and forward it to their friends on Facebook.
Okay. So see, once again, the interesting thing about this is go back 9 years, 2016, they got $20 million profit, if you want to look at it that way. They $20 million essentially above and beyond what their expenses were. Now they're losing $65 million a year. California, John, what are we going to do with that state? Huh?
We should bring them in to run the St. Louis public schools, Brad. That's the kind of forward thinking we need in St. Louis public schools.
No kidding. Ready for number 2?
Yeah, give it to us.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
This one is, I don't know if you saw this story. This story is from the Wall Street Journal, okay? Have you heard this story about the Wall Street Journal talking about Caitlin Clark? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, what happened?
When I say this, you are going to say, Brad, I don't believe that story. I think that's bologna sandwich. But this is an actual true story. There was an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal stating that that the WNBA should be sued for civil rights violation. Have you heard of this before?
Is this because Caitlin Clark is constantly getting attacked by black players?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And she can't get a fair shake in the league, and the league is refusing to defend her rights.
This is an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. I believe it was August 3rd, which was what, Sunday, I guess? Yeah, Sunday. And the headline is the WNBA and Caitlin Clark's civil rights. If the league won't act to protect its superstar from a hostile environment, the government should do so. Or they're saying that the federal government should file a civil rights suit against the WNBA because of the fact that they have a player who's getting constantly beat up, and I think she's still injured. I think she's on the sidelines. But the interesting thing was, I won't bore you with the details, but the guy goes through these statistics that, like in the past year, Caitlin Clark and somebody, you know these sports guys, they have stats and everything. Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of I don't know how many aggressive fouls, a lot of them who have not even been called, more than any player like in the last 20 years. It's the statistics are mind-boggling. Now, I mean, John, your opinion on this? Do you think that the federal government, do you think that Pam Bondi should get involved in this?
Absolutely not. But I love the story because it goes to show that finally people pay attention to this stuff. And what I love the fact that people rally behind Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham and these type of folks, because the blatant anti-white discrimination is there, and it's plain for anyone and everyone to see.
Now, there's 2 other stories that have been in the news recently with the WNBA. Do I dare talk about this? Matter of fact,
Brad, choose your words carefully.
You know which one I'm going to, right?
Could you say dill pickle?
There's one of the games, as they called it, a marital aid, which was like neon green, was thrown onto the court, okay? And we're talking about a vibrator kind thing, a phallic.
Okay, I think that's probably plenty for the FCC, Brad, but you know the law is better than me.
So they found the guy who threw it. Apparently there's somebody had video of it the whole bit, and he's being prosecuted to the highest level of the law. And he's been permanently banned from WNBA games. Plus he's being charged with assault. I'm going like, he didn't hit anybody. Now, and the other thing was the WNBA. Do you know this part of the story too? One of the players who got into a little bit of a foul situation during the foul, her wig fell off. Did you hear this story, John?
No. Oh, now that's tragic,
Yes,
Brad.
her wig fell off. And if you listen to the replay, this is all on YouTube. You can find this all over the place. The play-by-play people never said her wig fell off, but there's actually video of her. As soon as her wig gets knocked off, she picks it up and she leaves the court and she heads back into the locker room, I guess, to reattach her wig. But the interesting thing about it is that her last name is Jordan. And the Nike company has already contacted her, and they're thinking about going into the wig business, and they're going to call it the Hair Jordan.
Now, did you make that up, Brad?
I did. Do you like that?
That was pretty good. I like that one, Brad.
No, but it's a true story
But I love, though, Brad, real quick, I think it's a nice penalty for the guy because most of us would never go to a WNBA game anyway. So does the WNBA want to throw out one of their 23 fans? Like, come on.
The thing that's so bizarre about this is They talk about the fact that and I heard a guy talk about this the other day, that Caitlin Clark has rejuvenated the WNBA, and his point was, when was it ever juvenated? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't rejuvenate it. Maybe they mean it was juvenated. It was like Frankenstein, and they brought it to life.
Right. And the problem with it is, to me, all these other players, I talk about it all the time. As the tide rises, so do all boats. Caitlin, the other players should be walking up to Caitlin Clark, every single game. Caitlin, thank you so much. You've brought us more fans. We're going to get more money out of this. And the other crazy thing about it is, it's not just her who's getting the sponsorship and the endorsement contracts. It's the other players as well, too.
That's right. That's right. So you're saying that the other players are acting like KBDZ. Yes. And Caitlin Clark is just the Brad Hildebrand.
That's right.
Of the WNBA.
Right. I keep getting elbowed by Aunt Randy Rayleigh, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They should listen to the KBDZ welcome song that I've heard on Westplex Talk 104.5.
I'm still playing it, right? I mean,
I love that
them.
song, Brad. It's quite catchy.
Okay. And last but not least.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
I have it on expert authority that Adam Schnelting is going to be moving to Louisiana, John.
Oh, wow. Okay. And can you walk us through why this would possibly make sense?
Well, Adam Schnelting earlier this year tried to put a bill into the state Senate, essentially making it to the point where if you were in the left lane and you were doing 90 miles an hour, which is already a violation, and you were doing 90, and if someone came up behind you doing 100, and I wonder if that could be Adam Schnelting, that if you didn't yield that left lane immediately after getting the lights flashed at you, that you could be essentially fined, I think, $500 and thrown in jail.
Yeah. So did Louisiana pass some sort of a ridiculous bill that you'll tie to Adam Schnelting?
New Louisiana law targets slow left lane drivers with tougher penalties. Now get this, a major change is about to hit the roads. Now this was last week. It actually went into effect Friday, August 1st. A major change is, I'll just paraphrase this, is hitting the roads across Louisiana, and it targets drivers who cruise in the left lane. The law updates a previous rule that applied to drivers going 10 miles an hour under the limit. The new law takes it down to 1 mile an hour if you are on that stretch of I-70 heading toward Kingdom City to go south on 54 with Adam Schnelting goes on all the time, and you're in that left lane and you're doing, if this is Louisiana, if you're doing 69, not doing 70, if you're doing 69, ticket. And matter of fact, this is SB 11 in Louisiana, and it says, quote, the left lane is meant for faster moving traffic, but too often, slow drivers create dangerous situations and delays. Law enforcement told us that the old law was hard to enforce. SB 11 gives them the tools to better address this issue. This is... Doesn't that sound like the Adam Schnelting bill? I mean, isn't almost exactly the same thing he was talking about?
Maybe they got the idea from Adam Schnelting, but what if, Brad? What if Schnelting got the idea from another state? What if it came from like West Virginia or Oregon or something, and now it's spreading like wildfire throughout the country?
This guy, his name is Jay Laneau, Luneau. He's become a hit in Louisiana. And here are the penalties under the law. And keep in mind, it used to be 10 miles an hour. Now it's 1. So if you're doing 69 in the left lane in one of the interstates in Louisiana where the speed limit's 70, first offense, $150. Second offense, $250. Third offense, $350 and jail time. We're throwing you in jail for driving too fast in the left lane. I mean, someone sent me this article because of the fact that I've mentioned the Adam Schnelting bill on many occasions. And at first I thought it was a joke. And I found, this is actually from the website of WAFB, which is Channel 9 in I believe this is in New Orleans. And it was published back last month, talking about this new law going into effect. And it goes on to say, if they're actually going to enforce it, there will be a lot of people getting tickets. And I don't think that's going to work out too good. That's John Ruffin. He's against it. He says, I don't think you should be in that lane if you're not going to do the speed, but that is going to create a problem. And it talks about all this various things. What drives me crazy about this is COVID, we have the law of unintended consequences, okay? COVID has changed the highways and the way people drive. I don't know how many times it happened to me again last night. If I'm out at night, almost every time I'm out at night, there's at least one guy driving down the highway with no lights on, and I flash my bright set and stuff like that. No, who cares? B, how many times have I been on I-70 in St. Charles and have somebody pass me, sometimes on the right lane, because I'm not usually a left lane guy, I'm usually like a center or a right lane guy, mostly the center lane, pass me doing excess of 100 miles an hour. Now, once upon a time, on 170, you had Bell Ridge, which we used to call Radar Ridge, which they actually got I don't even know if the state does this anymore. I think the state and the federal government gave money to local police departments that have interstates running through their territories. They would give them money to essentially put a traffic officer out on the interstates within their municipality. And Bell Ridge had a guy who just sat up there in the interstate all the time. Matter of fact, the running joke was, if you weren't a regular driver in 170, the people who would pass you doing 80 or 90 miles, you'd go like, okay, that guy doesn't drive 170 very often. And
and your point, Brad, was that it happens all the time. And you were making a point about COVID. What does COVID have to do with it?
Because they didn't enforce the law. I mean,
oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant the traffic volumes were down since nobody goes to an office.
But that was the thing, that there was nobody on the highway. Matter of fact, I remember there was a report on NPR. They had the guy who was the head of the Minnesota Public Safety Department, which oversaw the Minnesota State Police. And he said that during COVID, like 2021, 2022, the number of violations that the State Highway Patrol wrote tickets in excess of 100 miles an hour quadrupled, to the point where there were so many people just going, I can just do what I want. I'm driving 100 miles an hour.
No rule. They thought there would be no enforcement.
Right.
Now, I think you make a great point about the highway, and you shouldn't drive 1 mile per hour less than 70. An exception to that is that if I had Sydney Sweeney in the car, I might do 69.
Okay, John.
69 miles per hour in a 70.
I'm not going to touch that.
But other than that, and that would be because we would be talking and I would be so, how do we say this, Brad? I would be so smothered. The conversation would be right in my face with Sydney Sweeney that I would probably just do 69.
That is John Combest. That is not Brad Hildebrand. That is John Combest. Okay. Next block, C block, we will talk about, what we're going to talk about, John, remind me so we don't forget again.
Charlemagne the God.
Charlemagne the God
on X.
And Trump. And also Howard Stern, which I think is sort of interesting because this story has popped up in the last couple of days, which is sort of interesting. Okay.
I am completely ignorant of the story. I haven't heard of it, so I want to be surprised in C block by your explanation, Brett.
Seriously, you don't know about this?
Yeah, I haven't heard about it at all.
Okay, we have to take a break.